Okay, picking up where I left off, on the bottom of this homework, you're asked to factor, to solve. So let's look at the first equation. I have 3x squared plus 9x equals 0. I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor, which is 3x. And I'm left with x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to zoom in a little here. And I can now set each factor equal to 0. Notice this has an x term but no c. If you do not have a c, then that's a big hint that you should factor by factoring out the greatest common factor. 3x equal to 0, x plus 3 equal to 0. This is when x equals 0. Remember, 0 divided by 3 is 0, so x equal to 0 and x equals negative 3. And there's our solutions for number 7. Number 8 is factor to solve. I have a trinomial. I'll put negative 10 in the top of the diamond and 3 in the bottom of the diamond. Now, two numbers that multiply to negative 10 but add to 3 would be, let's do 5 and negative 2. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, and adding them together gives 3. So I'm going to take, notice, okay, this is a leading coefficient of 1, so I can take my factors straight from the diamond. X minus 2 times x plus 5 equals 0. So my solutions are x equals 2 and x equals negative 5. Those are the solutions. Those are the values that make this quadratic equation equal to 0. Number 9, factor to solve. I'm going to make a diamond. I'm noticing that my leading coefficient is not 1. I don't have a greatest common factor, so I'm going to need to factor by grouping. Let's make the diamond. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and the coefficient for x here, the b is 1. Two numbers that multiply to negative 6 but add to 1 would be negative 2 and 3. Notice I'm putting the negative on the left-hand side. It sometimes makes it easier. Okay, now I'm going to factor by grouping. So I recopy the first term and split the middle term with these new coefficients of minus 2x plus 3x and a minus 3. And that's equal to 0. So I just split that x between those two. And recopy that last term. Now let's factor by grouping. I can take out a greatest common factor of 2x here, 2x, and that leaves x minus 1. I have a greatest common factor here of 3, so I'll take out a positive 3, and I'm left with x minus 1, which is what we want, matching binomials. Now I can take out the matching binomial x minus 1 and multiply it by 2x plus 3, that equals 0. So I have to set each factor equal to 0 to completely solve this equation. When x minus 1 equals 0, that means that x equals 1. That's one solution. When 2x plus 3 equals 0, then I'll subtract 3 from both sides, and I get 2x equals negative 3. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals negative 3 halves. So that's the other solution to number 9. X equals negative 3 halves. I hope you can read that. They got very small. Number 10 is the difference of two squares. So I can pretty quickly solve this if I remember that I can set up my factors like this and take the square root of x squared, which is x, and put that as my first two terms in each of those binomials. And then take the square root of 16 and put that as the second term in each of these binomials. And then I make one a plus and one a minus. And it's factored. That's using the difference of two squares method. Now I can solve that when x equals negative 4 and when x equals 4, then this whole thing will be 0. This whole equation will be 0. So those are my solutions. But that can be difficult for students to, for you to recognize. So hopefully, if you don't remember how to do the taking the square root of each and putting it into that format, you can remember to rewrite this with x, the x term having 0 in front of it. In other words, b will be equal to 0. So I'm rewriting this as x squared minus 0x minus 16. I'm rewriting it with the 0 in front of the x because I don't have an x term. And that allows us to use the diamond to solve it. So if we're going to use the diamond, then 1 times negative 16, that goes up here. And our b is 0, so that goes down here. We could put negative 0, but that's kind of meaningless. 0, negative 0, it's all 0. Actually, we could even make that a plus if we wanted to. It doesn't matter. So 0 goes here, negative 16 goes up here. Two numbers that multiply to negative 16 but add to 0 are 4 and negative 4. Starting to look a lot like our solution up here. Because this leading coefficient is 1, we can take our factors straight from the diamond. X plus 4 times x minus 4. And then set each of these equal to 0. X plus 4 equal to 0 means that x equals negative 4. X minus 4 equal to 0 means that x equals positive 4. And there's our solutions, which is what we would expect because we did it the other way already. And I can see that those solutions are matching. Good. Now, on the other side, we're asked to fill in this table. We have a table with a parabola here, or quadratic equation, and some values that we're supposed to plug in for the x. Here we're asked to put in negative 2 for the x, then negative 1, then 0. So let's do one of these at a time. Negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 squared plus 3 times negative 2 minus 1. This is negative 2 times 4. Remember, do this first. Don't multiply negative 2 times negative 2 first. You do what's here first. Negative 2 times 4 minus 6 minus 1. That's negative 8 minus 6 minus 1. Multiplying that first. Negative 8 minus negative 6 is minus 14. Minus 1 is equal to negative 15. Boy, that's a big one. Glad we're not being asked to graph it. That'd be a big graph. I'm just going to double check my work here for a second and put this on pause.